Welcome. We're us. It's the name of this podcast. I call it us because we're all in this together, and in order for all of us to come together and make things happen in this world, we have to get stronger within ourselves. The way to do that isn't to necessarily try to push anything as much as you're trying to get rid of distractions and things that may have been following you around in your life that has maybe caused you to maybe not be as productive as you normally would, or be more emotional than you should, or maybe react at times that maybe you shouldn't call for that kind of reaction. In order to be able to be an active person as opposed to a reactive is, as I said, to get rid of those distractions. Maybe your mother was tough on you, or your dad. There may have been sexual or physical or emotional abuse, maybe some trauma. Pretty much anything can kind of follow you around and cause you to do things you won't necessarily agree with once you're done doing them. Well, one of the things we do in my profession and in people's profession that go from metaphysical but also development and healing aspects, that's what this is all about. Today, we have an old friend of mine. Known her years ago. It's got to be 20 years now. More than that, maybe. Her name is Linda Sprague. I met her in the 90s. And what I liked about her was that she seemed to come at things with a common sense and a more grounded approach than a lot of people in those times. In these times. And then one day, I had been going with doing the job for years, but I was doing it just people coming to the house and just kind of offhanded, so kind of a side thing that I would do as I was learning more and more about it. Well, when I met Linda, I had gotten into the position of doing it full time. And one thing about doing intuitive work full time, it can tend to wear you down. Connections to all different vibrational frequencies, different personalities, different problems, that sort of thing tends to wear you down after a while. And I had gotten to a point where it had been so tough that I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. Obviously, I gotten over that. Anyway, and I was having a lot of conflict in my behavior. Well, Linda does this thing, and it's called SoulCPR, and she'll talk more about that here in a minute. But let me tell you what it did for me. I didn't expect a lot because I had healings done before, and it really didn't do nothing. Well, in this case, I went to her. And she had these things that she did, with the energy and stuff like this. And it was the weirdest thing. I was sitting there, breathing deep and just kind of letting it happen. All of a sudden, I had this vision of these people or entities walking out of my sight, like they were walking out of my mind or out of my head. It wasn't something I had thought of. I didn't create it. It was just something that I saw. When it was done, it was like all the cobwebs and all the muck had been taken out of my mind. I was able to go back to work. I was reading a lot of people in those days, and as I do now. But I was able to do it with such clarity and such comfort that I never forgot it. Well, luckily enough, I ran into Linda again on Facebook. And since I'm doing this, I think this is a good time to tell people what she does and how she does it. Well, she'll tell you more about how she does it. Anyway, she's the founder and creator of the SoulCPR process. She's dedicated her life to the past 3 decades to helping people unravel their personal traumas and challenges in order to find their truest self, which is so important. Linda has been called an artist in the field of energy healing and rebalancing, with a deep and understanding of modern and ancient systems of restoring the psyche to wholeness. She provides safe, effective ways for people to heal. Linda is also an experienced astrologist, an intuitive spiritual guide, as well as a popular teacher. Her private practice includes SoulCPR, that's a holistic healing for difficult life events and trauma. The gateways to synchronicity, tarot, astrology. She holds a master's degree in folklore studies and from Indiana University. She's a certified trauma relief and recovery and Myers-Briggs typology. She'll have to tell you what that is. She has facilitated women's moon gatherings, SoulCPR, life skills workshops in Dallas at the Dallas Yoga Center. Linda also has been a speaker and a workshop presenter at North Texas C.G. Jung Society. She loves to teach people how to access and utilize their emotional and spiritual intelligence. So at this time, I'm introducing right now Linda Sprague. There you go, Linda.
Hi, Robert. How great to be here.
Great.
It was such a touching heart moment to hear from you, to talk to you, and to reflect on when we met and what we were both experiencing in the 90s at Overtone's bookstore in Dallas, Texas. And I just wanted to say that for both of us, I know for me, but maybe for both of us, it was a very intense time. And it was a time in a way of being initiated into being a light worker. And, there's something else. It's like being able to learning how to handle so many energies at one time.
Right. Absolutely.
I've never experienced anything like it again. And I kind of hope not to.
Yeah.
I just remember us sitting in our little rooms with a light bulb, and doing whatever needed to be done. People were needing readings, they were needing healing. And personally, I was very fortunate. I got to do everything that I knew in that room.
Right.
Depending on what the person needed. And I'm sure you did too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from that, we got like tremendous amount of experience to be able to kind of go out into the bigger world and give what we want to give.
Right.
So I'm very grateful for that time, and I'm grateful to have a connection with someone from that time who was a witness to what was going on.
Did it seem like kind of a boot camp to you? Because
yes, that's the right word.
It was hardcore, and it was like
boot camp. Yeah.
Remember those fairs? I used to sit down at 11 o'clock and not be able to stand up till 6 because there'd be so many people.
Exactly. It was boot camp. Exactly.
Yeah, it was.
Boot camp. That's such a better way of putting it. Thank you so much. Yeah. What I like about you, I've been listening to a little bit of stuff on your US on us, and I love the way you bring such a clear sense of both the feminine and the masculine. Like the masculine is like a boot camp word,
right?
But you don't neglect the feminine, talking about the intuitive and bringing the heart into all that we're doing. So it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, we kind of need the balance, don't we?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. And I wanted to say that a friend of mine, her name is Janae Richards, we're doing a little Thursday night group on Zoom, and it's just a small group, but we are talking about so many amazing things. And when you talked about the feminine on the parts that I was watching, I was reminded of something that happened this week. We were talking about Mars is going to go into Aries in a few days, the end of the month. I think it's the 30th. And it will be there for 6 months because it will do a retrograde phase in September. So is it okay if I start with a little astrology?
Absolutely.
That also connects? Okay. So Mars rules Aries, and most people kind of know now that Mars is like the war planet and stuff like that.
Right.
But what we came to as we talked was how we're going to have 6 months here to really develop our spiritual warrior, you know, in an individual way. And retrograde, all that means is that the planet is moving slowly, so it appears to move backwards. It's not really moving backwards, of course.
Right.
But it's moving slowly, and it moves so slow that we have this extended period. Now, it can bring things like war. It can bring a lot of ego, but it also brings the opportunity for, let's say, Black Lives Matter to become an initiation for some Afro-American individuals to actually go through an initiation to come out the other side empowered and as spiritual warriors through what they're going through. So that was one thing that came out of it. And then the other thing that relates to the masculine and feminine, we've had quite an uproar with the feminine, you know, kind of like pounding the pavement and being sure that we're seen, we're heard, and it's an ongoing thing to try to bring the feminine more back into balance with the masculine.
Right.
But what we talked about, I thought was so fascinating that, wait, I got to find my quote. We're moving. This was a quote from, it's a quote from a psychologist who joins us on Thursday nights. Her name is Carol Cole. So here's what she said. Well, we're moving out of role-based identity into dynamic beingness and partnering. And the dynamic means, of course, non-rigid. So we're moving out of the old role-based identity of I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a mommy, I'm a daddy, you know, I'm a IT guy, I'm an IT woman, whatever. We're moving out of that into more fluid, dynamic identity. So if we look, it's like we're in the process of creating new archetypes for our beingness. Like the masculine and feminine are like, you know, we've got now like transgender and all these other kind of headlines around gender identity.
Right.
So these people are moving us out of this rigid identity so that we can incorporate the masculine and feminine in one being. So we don't have to just be one or the other. And I thought you kind of were expressing that when I heard you talk about, you know, the strength. We have to be strong. We have to do things. And that's like a masculine energy. But at the same time, we have to bring heart and feeling to it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In my way of thinking is just that. It's if you don't have the sensitivity and compassion along with the strength and assertiveness, if you don't have them both, then you're going to go in circles. You're actually going to cause a problem instead of healing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see that. We see the wounded masculine. We see the wounded feminine. We see the masculine that is overreacting due to woundedness and due to being shut down in its feminine. Right. And then we see the feminine going along with the masculine in order to belong, in order to stay entrenched in their own role-based identity.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just an amazing time. I know I started my partner Jack and I moved away from Dallas 3 years ago, and I thought, well, this will be great. I can still talk to my clients online and do some things, but it's kind of more moving towards retirement. And at that time, I had a reading, and I honestly can't remember where I had the reading. I think it was in Dallas with someone I didn't know, and I wanted to know, well, how's it going to be in Arkansas, and what's going to happen? What's going to happen next? And she kept talking about my work, and I said, well, I'm kind of retiring. And she said, no, you aren't. She said, your light worker contract.
Retired. Yeah, you can't
your
retire.
light worker contract has not expired and will not expire.
Right. I'm with you.
And I think that's the one message I want to give to everyone who will hear this, that as a light worker, we don't expire.
No.
You know, there's no gold watch, there's no IRA at the end of the
right. I've tried to quit. There's no way.
There's no way. It's just not going to happen. In fact, since the coronavirus started, for 1 month everything was silent, everything was quiet, and then wham, all these things have happened that have speeded up my participation as a light worker. And I'm on the one hand I'm shocked, and the other hand I'm grateful, and I'm excited that I get to be a part of what we're doing. And so
it is a fascinating time. Yeah.
It is a fascinating time.
Yeah. So
when I use the word archetype, I'm thinking about what I've learned from Tarot, which I won't talk about much today, except to say that I think the archetypes that are in the Tarot are vital to our understanding, and they are what I call one of the templates that we use in order to understand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then astrology, I've done more astrology in the past 3 years than I did, I don't know, in a long time, because people are really tuning in to that system as a template for understanding the concept of as above, so below. The horoscope is like a magical photograph
mm-hmm.
of the moment that we took breath, or the moment we got here on our train. And it kind of is part of our blueprint that we're always trying to understand so that we can transform and continue on,
mm-hmm.
With new energy. So I wanted to mention that because I told you that I thought a good topic was like co-creating new templates, or co-creating templates for new ways of being
right
on planet Earth. And Tarot is one. Astrology is one. It's a very big template, overwhelming, complicated template in some ways. So the job of the astrologer is to make it simple. And when you said that one of the things you liked about me was I had common sense and was grounded, I seem to have been born with that. And it keeps me from going off too far. But astrology, it's like, if we can ground it and make it simple and give what's important to a person, it can be one of the most important decoders that we have in understanding ourselves and the collective.
Yeah.
Now, we could talk a long time today about what's going on, astrologically that relates to what's going on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. But more important is to understand that these are cycles. And when people think like, well, what does that have to do with what's going on here? It's not like a cause and effect. It's a relational connection. Mm-hmm. So there are astrologers, and have been from the beginning of time, who have followed the cycles of what happens in the heavens.
Right.
And they've kept that record going forever. So it's a combination of astronomy and astrology. The astrologer is the one who's like the historian who writes it down and says, well, here's what happened during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So we are repeating a phenomenally and huge cycle right now of death and transformation. Right. And it was current during the plague. It was current parts of it. I mean, not exact. The plague, it was pretty close to exact. The Spanish flu had some parts of it. The AIDS epidemic had parts of it. So we go through these cycles where we have wake-up calls that change our behavior, that tear down, like you mentioned on one show, that we're losing the old ways of being, and we have to step up and say, yes, I'm for creating new structures. I'm for creating new ways of being.
Right. Yeah, and that being has to be balanced, That's what I'm seeing personally.
Yes.
is it has to be balanced. We can't get, to where we run all totally on emotion, but we can't go might what might makes right either.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I love what you just said. That's the whole thing with what I call my SoulCPR, which is a combination of my certifications in trauma work and then the energy work that I've been doing. So that's the whole point, that it's not, you start with the emotion, you start with the feelings, and then you move it to deeper understanding that leads to actually witnessing your own behaviors, your own adaptive strategies
exactly
for getting by in this world. And you go, wait a minute, I think I would like to do something different here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can change that, and you can just grieve the past and say, hey, it got me this far, but goodbye. And, here's to the new way.
Right. Sure.
If we don't move beyond the emotional reaction, we don't get anywhere.
Right. Well, I was saying a lot, actually this week, really a lot, that the emotion is more like an indicator, like the old radar detectors.
Yes. Right.
And as soon as that goes off, then the idea isn't to panic or to stop. It's to evaluate what it is you're doing and how you're doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. That's
but
exactly.
if you live there, if you live in the emotion, all you do is go in circles and destroy yourself. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're learning about resolving trauma and difficult life events. Trauma keeps us too connected with the emotion, and of course it gets lodged in the body.
Mm-hmm.
That is not good. So making it more conscious is the way out, so that we can do something different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think this time that we're going through now is about that, because we're going to find out that might makes right really doesn't work. But we're also going to find out that ultra sensitivity or ultra reactive to sensitivity also doesn't work.
Correct.
So what's happening now is almost a battle of the two, which will ultimately result in the combination of both.
Oh, yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah.
I love that. Oh, it makes me feel so good, because this process of SoulCPR, that's kind of what it's about, because the headline is safe, simple structures.
Yeah.
So you make it safe to have your feelings, and then you have simple ways of understanding what your beliefs and behavior have been, so that you can create a new container for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an ongoing thing. Yeah, it's an ongoing thing.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because
go
ahead.
No, you go ahead. I want to
hear
it's like, I like what you say.
Well, it's like when I started, I was more of a knuckle dragger type. And the more I would let go of some of that, the intuition started. And then I found out that I went totally intuitive, where all I did was live the job, and it was messing me up. So I had to find my balance back. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I even had to, I think you might know this, I went into Peru and hung out with the Indians for a while to make that happen, And
cool.
What it did was, now when I see, for example, Trump, just an example, I don't see the Neanderthal overbearing type that people see. I can see what he means and what he's focusing on, but it's the might makes right mentality that's screwing it up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
It freaks people out enough that they're afraid he's going to tear everything apart, which really he won't, but he's making more of a mess by talking like a crazy man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a good example of what you said doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because he has both. Might makes right. He'll say, we'll just get out there and take care of it. We'll bring in the police, we'll bring in the army, whatever.
Yeah.
Might makes right. And we know that won't work. And then on the other hand, he's ultra sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
Yeah. He's so, his feminine is like right there. I mean, he's so sensitive. He gets his feelings hurt. Well, and then he lashes out with might makes right.
Right. Well, that's why he always, I'm doing this, nobody can. I'm doing this, nobody can. That's more of his defensive mechanism than it is a belief. Do you
for
see?
sure.
Like he doesn't believe really he's all that. Okay, he doesn't really believe that. He's doing that. That's part of his defense against other people telling him he's no good. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was watching him in a town hall thing, and this lady said, "Mr. Trump, what advice do you have to an ordinary person to have the success that you've had?" He said, "The first thing you do is quit telling yourself you're ordinary."
Oh.
And that is excellent
That's
advice.
True. Yeah. Right.
Because nobody's ordinary.
Right. We're all unique.
Right. And like when I hear him say, I'm the best, or whatever he says, I never take it as, well, he's saying he's better than me. Do you see?
Okay.
Where a lot of people will. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Like you got somebody they're saying they're the best, and you think, well, shit, he must think I'm not as good.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily true. Yeah.
So what you're saying is he's kind of modeling to us that we need to believe we're the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But see, that's been that, that you hear that from Tony Robbins, you hear that from Zig Ziglar,
yeah, sure.
all the real successful people, Dale Carnegie, they all talk about that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
but
totally.
they're not as rough sounding as he is.
Right. Okay.
So instead of being an educator like he should be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Did you see the movie The Help?
No, I didn't.
Okay, there's a book called The Help, and they made a movie. It's about life in the South, not during slavery, but in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this woman, black woman, who is a domestic worker, and she goes every day to work for this family. And one of the children, there's this little girl she's really very connected with, and this is what she says to her every day: "You is smart. You is kind, you is important."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So she says the same thing, but in this very soft
that's
way.
all that's what matters too.
Exactly.
When as my career has gone, I have this program that actually teaches people how to communicate better. And
cool.
One of the things I do is I have them ask questions as opposed to make statements. For example, okay, your statement could be, "Why are you're treating me like crap," or whatever. But the other side of that could have been, "Why do you want me to feel this way?" Or, "What are you trying to have me feel?" That's constructive, but it's the same thing, but it's constructive. It can be worked with.
That.
It can be worked with.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I totally love
as opposed to saying, "Okay, you're right and I'm not. I mean, I'm right, you're not," and try to press that.
Exactly. I know.
See? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm real good at that in my relationship. I think I need your class.
Well, yeah. We got stuff to do. Yeah.
No, that's so great. Yeah, because we're still living in this paradigm of we're supposed to listen only to prepare ourselves to react or respond. We don't ever really listen. Yeah. And what you're saying is, I'm listening and I'm going to give you a question, listen, and respond from that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing would be like, okay, you're saying this and I'm feeling this. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Because a lot of times people will say something and it'll be taken wrong by someone else because they're coming off their baggage too. Right?
Yeah, of course they are.
One phrase, if you look at how our English language is, one phrase can be taken 2 or 3 times, different ways.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a tricky way to do it. I mean, it's a way to really settle things down, make them constructive. Yeah.
I love that. So you have a course online with that?
Well, it's actually not a course. It's just I have people who I'll just say how the business works. They buy a block of time and say they're going into a meeting. I'll look into it. Okay, you're dealing with this guy, so here's how you approach him.
Oh, okay.
Do you see? Yeah. And then I say, okay, he's going to do this to you. He's going to try to overpower you. So what you do, you keep eye contact and you say, "Are you saying this?"
Oh, yeah.
Is this what you need from me? Or that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's really like taking, there's a particular counseling model, and you're really taking it to a whole other level.
oh,
Because in counseling, if it's couples counseling, one of the things they do is like if somebody says, the counselor says, "What happened? Would you tell me what happened?" And say the woman says, "Well, this happened, and he said this, and blah blah blah." And then you turn to the man and you say, "Okay, could you please tell us what you just heard?"
right.
Meaning, can you repeat what she said? And the guy says, "She said I'm a jerk, and
Right.
that I'm not good enough."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, you're taking that and really doing something with it. That's great. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I have like 79 people on that program. And
What? Oh,
yeah, and it's all over the world. I mean, I had a lady not long ago call me suicidal. Um, she was in Beijing. And it's because she took a lot of what was being told to her at that time. She was taking it all as an offense that she wasn't good enough and this and this and this.
yeah.
And once we unraveled it, she realized that she wasn't even being judged at all. Do you see?
Yeah.
Once it's unraveled, she starts seeing, okay, I did take it this way because of this or this, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he already felt that way. The man who said she thinks I'm not good enough, she said I'm not good enough. He already feels he's not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And the
So
interesting
that's the
thing,
part
you probably see this too. Interesting thing, you have like sometimes a guy or a woman will treat their spouse bad because they think they're too good.
right.
Like if a man looks at his wife and he's afraid she's going to leave, a lot of men will behave in such a way to make her believe she's not worth nothing.
Oh, really?
It isn't because he doesn't believe she's worth nothing. It's because he doesn't want her to think it, because then she might
Yeah.
think someone else would be better.
Huh.
Do you see? So it's like,
Yeah.
somebody cheating. A lot of times they don't cheat because they think the person's better. They cheat because they
Yeah.
think the person's easier to impress.
Correct.
You see, it's just interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really fascinated that our paths, we've been apart for a long time and haven't had any contact except seeing you on Facebook or this or that. And here talking with you, we're doing a lot of similar things.
Right. Because it's time for it. It's time
because it's time for it. So maybe that's why it came to me to call this topic co-creating templates for new ways of being, because first of all, we have to, so we have templates, and I don't know what the fundamental thing is, but it's like a template originally is like a pattern for like used in industry,
Right.
a metal cutout or something, or a pattern for dress used in for sewing. And then it's got to apply to a file that serves as a starting point for a new document. And then it's been applied now in DNA.
Right.
That a strand is used by DNA to attach. It's like the mother lode, and it replicates itself through a template.
Right.
And we're creating other templates for problem solving, for integrating the masculine and feminine, for coming into our own strength, and to co-create a different world.
Right.
So I'm going to put a footnote in with this creating a different world, because it goes back, of course, forever. It's ongoing. But the most recent point in this is 2012, when we dealt with the Maya calendar. And we learned that the Maya knew that a 26,000 year cycle had completed. It's called the precession of the equinoxes.
Right.
And so that calendar, there's all this hullabaloo. Oh, the world is coming to an end. Well,
as we know
of course,
it.
As we know it, exactly. Right. So we are in that transitional time of this precession of the equinoxes, where we're moving into a very new experience, and we're not there, and who knows how long it's going to take, but we have to create conscious templates for getting there, or we're just going to die.
Right. Well, we need to be seeing self-development and understanding
Yeah.
as a strength and a virtue.
Right.
not
exactly.
a sideline. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The outcome of my program with SoulCPR is empowerment.
Right.
So the person feels empowered and strong no matter what's happened in their life.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing, I just want to say one more thing on this subject, that I've been hearing recently things like people worried about the New World Order and stuff, like thinking that they hear the phrase "we're one" and they think that means we're all supposed to be the same, and that's not the point. The incredible miracle of creation is that we all come from that same energy, that same whatever substance, but we're all unique.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough to make us realize that there's something deeply profound about creation.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we lose our uniqueness or our individuality. It just means that we keep that concept, that knowing, that heart knowing that we are all a part of the same thing. But it doesn't mean that we stop having Christmas or we stop having Ramadan or, you know, whatever it is. You know?
Yeah.
So that's part of our strength and empowerment too, to not lose that sense and not think somebody's trying to take that away.
Yeah. I think that New World Order thing is a general thing where we become the serfs and the subjects, and the elite, so to speak, becomes the masters with the whip. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think a lot of people are seeing it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are, you know, it is a little bit like Lord of the Rings. I know
Right.
There's days when I think, hurry up, Frodo, and get the ring into the volcano.
Right.
You know, it's like, that to me is a perfect symbol of this transformation into another time.
Yeah.
Into another way of life. It's like the ring represents this sort of like power and authority, invincibility, power over rather than power with, you know. So anyways, I was thinking about the whole idea of template, of course, because I said I would talk about that. And one of the first templates that I can remember being really impactful to me was Don Miguel Ruiz, the Four Agreements.
Right.
To me, that's a kind of template that if we really take it seriously, it starts to change the life. And then he added one. So there's be impeccable with your words, and that means inside your head as well as outside.
Right.
And then don't take things personally that you talked about.
Right.
If we can get away from that, boy, we make good strides. Don't make assumptions. As psychics and intuitives, we need to make sure people understand that we're not exactly reading their minds.
No.
So we're not making assumptions about who they are or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't make assumptions about my friend, but you know, it's important that people understand they can't ever read anybody's mind.
No.
That's when they're making assumptions.
Right.
And then the fourth one, he just says, is always do your best. And then he added another one recently. I guess he's done another book, and it's like, be skeptical, but learn to listen.
Right.
Listen. It's like,
well,
yeah.
You know, being skeptical should be first thing, because, you know, it's so easy to get led by somebody with pretty talk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really important to be able to say, okay, yeah, it's sounding good, but this is really what's going on here. Do you see?
Yeah. I know.
Like in our field, as you know, there's no guardrails, and there's nothing to say what's real and what isn't, you know, not concretely. And so you have to be skeptical. Like I have people come to me still, well, you know, I've never done this, so I'm a little skeptical. You should be skeptical.
Right.
When you're dealing with something like this, you should be skeptical. Absolutely. If you're not, then you need to look at that.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Because
I read that. I'm trying myself to be skeptical about everything I hear right now, because, oh my gosh, you know, gone are the days when you turned on the news and everybody had the same story, you know?
Right. Right.
Now we have all these
Walter
different.
Cronkite is dead.
I
Absolutely.
know, I know, I know, I
Everybody
know,
believed him. He was cool.
I know. And we have to grow up
Yeah.
and understand this multidimensional reality we live in, that we have all these different ways of perceiving and interpreting,
Hmm.
behaving. There's so many different ways. And what
Yeah.
do we do with that? I think that's part of this movement, this shift. It's like we have to accept other people's interpretation.
Yeah. Well, you know what? People being different with different points of view, it's kind of like tomatoes in your salad, man.
Yeah.
Without
Yeah.
it, you got nothing. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. I know. We're going to have different stuff. We're just
Yeah.
going to have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it
So-
really is. Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to say about the whole template thing of like, I just want to encourage all light workers to think about not just the details of what they do, but what's the bigger picture and what is it that they have to offer that's a template for new ways of being in this new world that we're trying to co-create, that will make us all feel loving and strong
Hmm.
and empowered,
Right.
you know, and to get along, but to combine what you were saying about those masculine, feminine energies.
Yeah.
There's one thing about the Mars going into Aries. We can say, I found this one quote about the rainbow warriors. So this is like being strong in love and powerful in compassion,
Hmm.
having willpower to help the voiceless ones, to help the plants and animals,
Right.
because we have a relationship with everything here on Earth.
Yeah. And you know, you see a lot of, when I talk to people, everybody that comes to me now talks to me about, things are going bad or getting worse and stuff like this. And this is, they're not getting worse.
Right.
It
I
looks,
agree.
it looks a little dark, but it's only going through the worst part of the transition.
Yeah. Right.
In the last few years, we have made such strides in, like animal health. I mean, taking care of animals.
Yeah.
Dealing
right.
with abuse.
Yes.
Dealing with runaway kids, dealing with all these
Yeah.
things that need to be done. We make incredible strides with that.
Yeah.
And even now, when it seems like the races are clashing, that's not even really what's happening here. Because there's no way we're going to have a race war, because 90% of whites, blacks, whoever, believe it's cool that the other one is there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what would we do if we didn't have black people in our culture? What would we do if we didn't have some Indians or some this or that? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
I mean, we would be off. We wouldn't be what we are.
That's
You
true.
see,
We wouldn't.
the clash is just fear of being less or lack, or fear of the other person thinks more. Which, if we just
Correct.
understood that it really is irrelevant,
Right.
we go from there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's actually been a lot of research in all the things that Africans brought to America, and particularly to the South. And one is the language, because Africa had a lot of tonality in their language. So
Right.
the Southerners talk with more lyrical, more
Mhm.
sing-songy,
Right.
that kind of deal. Yeah, just something simple like that. Not to mention hairdos, because the African women did the little white girls and did those curls and stuff like they did. I don't know. It's just fascinating to read.
Yeah.
That even hairdos came a lot from Africa. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're living in a time of the shadow, but
Right.
it's like you said, all these phenomenal things are happening. So we're living in the shadow, and we're trying to be a part of the change. We're trying to become our own shamans in a way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And we're going to grow our own souls, because we know that problems can't be solved from the vibration they were created.
Right. Exactly. We have to raise
Yeah.
that vibration. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's necessary.
Yeah. And we're using all these tools we can
Right.
and all these templates we can to try to raise the vibration
Yeah.
so that we can do something different. Now, the thing you talked about that we did so long ago, that is a part of shamanism. And shamanism, over the years, what I've come to see is that shamanism is, it's an earth-based
Right. Yeah, it is.
dedication. It's an earth-based dedication.
Well, it's also a vibrational situation. They use the animals and trees and rocks and stuff. They use that as symbols of just vibrational change or vibrational opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, for sure.
Like I was telling somebody, I have this technique that I've told people to do as soon as they meet somebody, is to decide what kind of animal they are. And and they're going, well, what kind of animal? How do I know what animal they're going to be? Well, it doesn't matter. What matters is how do you see them? If you see them as a bear, maybe they're protective, but maybe they have a short, quick temper. But maybe they're cuddly. If it's a snake, maybe whatever correct characteristics you see in a snake. But you're just intuitively interpreting the vibration.
Yeah,
you see?
Right.
And it really all comes down to that, like what you did for me. You helped me reset my vibrational frequency. Do you see? It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it made everything. It made a big difference for me that time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Yes. When the person is receptive, it really is. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I can't use my shaker because on the phone it really sounds bad. But I have this.
That's them. You made it a goat hooves, wasn't that was?
Yeah, they're goat toes.
That was cool as hell. Yeah, I thought that's fun.
Yeah, the goat toes are the things that the goat sheds.
Yeah.
So they're not like abused animals. They shed them and they collect them.
Right.
This is just a little shamanic. Got bells on it.
Well, see,
so I can use it.
Well, that's the thing too. Just that shaking made a difference in the vibration also. So,
yes, it does.
It was phenomenal. Yeah. It really was.
Yeah. So that's a part of shamanism, of trying to, again, use a different frequency to solve the problem. That it's going to be different from where it was created.
Well, that's the whole thing. We have such a big influence over our own vibration that it's phenomenal. We don't have to feel how we feel. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like when I get really wore out, I might wake up totally depressed or even suicidal, actually, for about 30 seconds. Because then I'll think about what I got to do, things I got to do. And, I'm going to go see the kid today, go whatever.
Right.
And I'm back.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Right.
And that's really all there is to it. When I was that wore out, I was to a point where I didn't know what I could do with it. And when I went to you, you did your thing. I just relaxed and let you do it. And it raised the vibration for me.
Yeah.
You see that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
And
yeah.
I was good for a long time after that. So,
yeah, whatever the magic is of that you're receptive and your guides and the sound, we know so much more now about sound vibration and how it affects our frequencies and everything. So we're going to do more and more and more of the sound.
A lot of the shamans that I've met, like in South America, Amazon, places like that, and Huna, the Huna people in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
All of their stuff is really, although it has symbols, it's all routed with vibration. All of it. That's why they use Icaros in South America. Use Icaros, which is, these chants. They do these chants. A lot of these monks use chants. That's to do that. Yeah, that's what does that. Right. A lot of them will use fire. You focus on fire long enough, it'll raise your vibration because the fire itself has a high vibration. Yeah. Do you see? And that's what that's all about. They use a lot of earth-based symbolism.
Yeah, earth-based. Yeah. That's one part of it. The second part of it is the love for the ancestors and taking care of the ancestors, appreciating the ancestors. Mm-hmm. And that's taking us to another step in our transformation here on Earth, that we have got to heal our ancestors. And when we think about ancestors, we think about the negative things we got, or the good things we got, or thank you, or whatever. but they need our help. They, the ancestors, that they need our help in trying to like release from the old ways as well, so that we can move in to new dimension.
Yeah.
Because they help keep us stuck there too, and they're stuck.
Let me ask you this: since you hit that, just like to ask a question. The question is this: do you believe in death?
Yeah.
You do?
I mean, stop breathing here on Earth, but no. I mean, we continue.
Right. This is what I'm saying. Shedding the body, the death of the physical, but not of the actual person. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been telling. Matter of fact, I did at my sister's funeral, and I was saying, I don't personally believe in death, and I know I got some looks on that one. Anyway, so, but it's the way I say it. I decided to just articulate it that way. I don't believe in death.
Right.
Because death is supposedly the ending of something, but it's just shedding, moving on.
It's kind of the beginning of something, or the renewal.
And the reason I asked you about that is because you're talking about helping your ancestors.
Yeah, right.
Well, that implies that the ancestors are still alive out there and prone to effect.
Right. Yeah.
And so that just proves what I'm saying. It's just another aspect of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There is one thing that I want to say. This would be more like, about what you're bringing up. It's sort of like a more esoteric, mystical part of Christianity that I think we were raised. Some of us were raised with. I was, but I'd kind of forgotten it. A friend of mine died a few years ago when I went to the evening showing, viewing, what they call viewing. I was there visiting with his partner, and he was more than a friend. I shared an office, and, we were close, and he was also like a mentor to me. So it was very, very sad what happened. And his partner said, let's go up and visit him, like in his casket. I'm like, okay. So I go up there with him, and he says, Linda, it's so beautiful, isn't it? He's gone to be renewed now. He's not here, but he's gone, and he gets to be totally reborn and renewed,
reset, and be able to look at things different. Yeah. Well,
I know.
Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of death in my time. I get called every now and then when somebody's about to die and that sort of thing. And I've always, across the board, they always seem to get it figured out at that time as they step away. Like,
oh my God.
My sister died a couple years ago, and she lived her whole life kind of just depressed and feeling bad about life and herself. And, my parents, we were raised pretty rough, and she was convinced that she wasn't any good. So she gained, she had like 475 pounds, I think she was. And she's only 5 foot tall. And so her whole life was a big struggle. And if anything good happened, she always wonders when the bad part's going to come. Do you see?
Yeah.
Well, she had COPD, and we're in the hospital. And she wanted to die. She literally wanted to just shut off the machines. I'm finished. I can't do this anymore. And my niece talked her into there, letting everybody come up and say goodbye, and they did that. And she looks over at these nurses, and she says, "Is that going to hurt me?" And she goes, "No, it won't hurt you. You'll be fine. You'll be comfortable." She said, "Okay, all right, let's do it." That's what she said. Now, when they were hooking her up to morphine her, and so they could take her off the ventilator, she looks around and she says, "Wow, people did love me."
Yes.
It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Because she got it. She got it. It was like, it was heartbreaking because she didn't already know.
Yeah.
But it was just amazing because now she did.
Oh, that's beautiful.
How cool is that? I've seen that a few times. This one hit me harder because it was my sister, of course. But,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, there is continuity of life. The body's just how we're going through this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that continuity of life.
Yeah. So, so what do you think? The last of this, the tunnel we're going through. Do you have any idea when it comes out? I have a prediction, by the way.
I'm not sure that anyone does. I think it continues with these difficulties for at least another year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at least. Astrologically, I'd say at least another year. But we start a whole new cycle the end of the year with Saturn and Jupiter in air in Aquarius.
Yeah.
And that's a reset, and that's like a 20-year cycle. So, you know, it's hard to say. These cycles just keep going on and on and on.
Back in 86, I read somebody, and it came to me, and I've been saying it ever since. I said, by 2010 to 2012, this is before I knew anything about Mayan calendars, I said, we're going to go through so much crap that we're going to reset the whole consciousness. I said, when it's done, you're going to want to buy a T-shirt. Oh, that you've been through it. Right. And it's happening just like that. I'm not saying that to be like, I'm right, but it's happening just like that. And the prediction I have, and anybody listening, write it down, man, within 26 months, we'll have pretty much a whole different society.
Wow, good.
A whole different social thing, you know what I'm saying? The norm will be a little bit more amicable. Do you see?
Yay!
We will look at police behavior, governmental behavior with more scrutiny and more hands-on. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that'll also bleed into the other parts of the world too. But that's what I'm saying. Within the next 26 months.
26 months. That's great. I love it. I love that.
Well, it's not to say it'll be totally fixed by then, but we'll be in that.
I know.
In that mode.
No, I get. Yeah. That we really. Yeah, I do believe that the things that are happening. Like one person texted me and said, "Don't you think this BLM thing is like out of control?" And I'm like, "No, it's overdue. You know, like this. It's so important, and this is like." I agree that's going to be a reset. We're not going back.
No,
we're not
at all. There's no way to. And here's the other thing. What I see, I mean, this is horrendous. A lot of stuff going on. People really getting hurt. I see it as we've had an infection for the last decades, lots of decades, maybe a century. And what's going on now is the bleeding off of that infection. As gross as that sounds. And bleeding, you know, getting rid of infection is always painful.
Yeah,
and that's where we are. And, hopefully there won't be too much mortality over that, but there we go.
I know. I like the symbology of that, though.
Yeah.
We're getting rid of, like, a collective toxic infection.
Yeah. Well, you know, our society was really built. I mean, when I was a little kid, a lot of people had pride in how honest they were or how they handled things. But there was a big lot of them that were all about horse trading. Look, I got over on so-and-so, got over on so-and-so.
Oh, I know.
You know, that's my people like my dad and all those guys, they were all about that. Who could they dominate? Who could they outsmart? Do you see?
Yeah.
That's an infection in itself.
I agree.
You see? And so it had to come to the head like this.
Yeah.
And even as we watch, this is going to sound a little weird, but as we watch Trump, you can actually watch him little by little, he's starting to soften. Little by little, I mean, really small.
Yeah.
He's starting to soften. I mean, if he hadn't have, we'd already had military involvement in wiping out those people in Seattle. Do you see?
Correct.
Because that's his mentality.
Yeah.
That's his mentality. Right. That's how he grew up. Okay.
Right.
But he didn't. Dominate. He didn't because he's seen. Okay, we can't really get too strong-armed on this. Not at the moment. So little by little, he's learning, and hopefully, it'll make it better for him. But even so, as it goes through, he'll go through it. We're going through it. We're all going through it.
Yeah, you know? I mean, he's the wizard who had to stir the pot.
Yeah. Well, like, you know, it's going to teach a lot of these, like, militant black people that not all white people have a problem with them. It'll teach some white people that black people don't all got a problem with, and we're going to figure out, people that are really paying attention are going to figure out that we can't be without either of them.
Yeah.
I'm not talking the racist. We can't be without black people. We shouldn't be.
Yeah.
White people are supposed to be here too. Everybody's here. Everybody has their place.
That's right.
It's like a tapestry. It's like a tapestry.
Yeah.
If you have only one color,
I love it.
then you don't have nothing but a rug. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, exactly. Oh, I love that. Yeah, we're like a tapestry.
Yeah.
Each life is a tapestry.
Right, exactly.
And then we put them all together,
Put them together,
It's
exactly.
like, it's neat. Yeah.
So, well, baby, we're running out of time.
I know.
So
I'll just do a little jingle jangle. How can I thank you? Robert, this was great.
Yeah,
I
it was
just
fun.
loved talking with you. Yeah, it was really nice.
So let the people know how they can get you.
Sure. And I know you're going to put it out there too,
Sure.
but for astrology, it's just www.lindasprague.com. You can find SoulCPR right now on Facebook while I'm redoing a website. So either one of those places will get you to me.
Right. Okay.
SoulCPR on Facebook. Okay?
All right. Cool.
All right.
Well, good talking to you, girl. It was great.
Okay.
We'll hook
Take
up.
care.
Maybe we can get you on here another time at some point. Okay.
Be great. Okay.
All
Bye,
right.
Robert.
Bye. All right, guys. It's time is about up. One of the things I always like to say is always strive to be a person of action, an inspiration to others, instead of a reactive person that inspires no one. Have a good day.